I'd like to withdraw my entire account.
Your entire account?
Yes, ma'am, the whole thing.
And your name?
John Dillinger.
All right, everybody, hold it right where you are. This is a robbery. Charlie, get that back vault. Harry, clean up the counters.
Watch him, Homer. Watch him.
No. Everybody on your stomachs now. I said I mean it now. You miss. Turn over. This ain't no board directors meeting.
Get in there.
Don't nobody get nervous. You ain't got nothing to fear. You're being robbed by the John Dillinger gang. That's the best there is. These few dollars you lose here today, they're gonna buy you stories to tell your children, your great-grandchildren.
Today, Review Lens looks at Dillinger, the 1973 crime film directed by John Milius and starring Warren Oates, Ben Johnson, and a young Harry Dean Stanton. Made on a modest budget of around $1 million, the film became a surprising box office success, earning several times that amount and establishing Milius as a distinctive voice in American cinema. It arrived during a time when Hollywood was beginning to revisit American myth through a darker, more realistic lens. If you appreciate honest, simple movie talk films discussed with patience, clarity, and respect like the video, and subscribe to Review Lens. This channel is for people who still believe movies are worth slowing down for. Now let's step back into the Great Depression and look at how Dillinger strips away the legend to reveal something colder underneath. I actually prefer this version of the Dillinger legend better than Public Enemies with Johnny Depp. By the time John Milius made this film, the gangster genre had already been shaped by decades of myth-making. Criminals were often portrayed as charismatic rebels, men who stood against a broken system. Dillinger doesn't completely reject that idea, but it complicates it. The world here is not just economically broken. It's morally thin. Survival matters more than meaning, and violence is simply part of the environment. Warren Oates understands this completely. Dillinger is not interested in nostalgia. It uses the Great Depression as a backdrop, but it refuses to romanticize it. His portrayal of John Dillinger is not built on charm, it's built on focus. Oates plays him as a man who knows exactly what he is and has no interest in explaining himself. There's no attempt to soften him, no effort to make him likable in a conventional sense. What Oates gives you instead is presence controlled, watchful, and occasionally explosive. He doesn't perform Dillinger as a legend. He performs him as a man who became one. Ben Johnson brings something equally important in his role as lawman Melvin Purvis. Johnson had a long history in Westerns, often playing men of quiet authority. Here, he uses that same stillness but removes the comfort. His Purvis is patient, methodical, and emotionally distant. There's no personal vendetta, no dramatic speeches, just a job that needs to be done. That restraint creates a different kind of tension, one where the law feels just as inevitable as the outlaw. Then there's Harry Dean Stanton, whose presence, even in smaller roles, always adds to any flick. Stanton had a way of making characters feel lived in, as if they existed before the scene began and would continue after it ended. In Dillinger, that quality reinforces the film's world. Nobody feels like they've been written for effect. They feel like they belong there. Dillinger's girlfriend, Billie Frechette, was played by a very young Michelle Phillips. Some of you may recall she was in the pop group The Mamas and the Papas. The real Frechette is known to have been involved with Dillinger for about 6 months until her arrest and imprisonment in 1934. She finished 2 years in prison in 1936, then toured the United States with Dillinger's family for 5 years with their Crime Doesn't Pay show. She married and returned to the Menominee Indian Reservation, where she was born, for a quieter life in her later years. The strength of these performances is that none of them try to dominate the film. They serve it. That's rare. especially in a story built around a figure as mythologized as Dillinger. Instead of competing for attention, the actors create a shared tone, one of quiet tension and underlying brutality. The production itself reflects that same stripped-down approach. Filming took place in locations that could still evoke the 1930s without heavy reconstruction. Parts of the film were shot in Midwest towns and rural areas that retained period authenticity, along with practical sets that emphasized function over design. This wasn't about recreating the Depression with polish. It was about suggesting it with enough honesty that the audience could feel it. Budget limitations shaped the film in important ways. Action scenes had to be direct and efficient. There was no room for elaborate setups or extended takes. That constraint works in the film's favor. The violence feels sudden and unglamorous, closer to interruption than spectacle. There's also the matter of firearms and historical detail. Milius paid attention to period weapons and how they were used, avoiding overly stylized action. Gunfights in Dillinger are abrupt and functional. There's no choreography meant to impress. The goal is impact, not spectacle. Warren Oates, known for his commitment to roles, reportedly leaned into the physical and psychological demands of playing Dillinger without trying to mythologize him. That choice influenced the entire production. Instead of building scenes around heroic framing, the film keeps him grounded, often surrounded by environments that diminish rather than elevate him. There's also an underlying historical tension in the story. The real John Dillinger became a public figure during a time when many Americans distrusted institutions. Banks had failed, jobs had disappeared. In that environment, outlaws could be seen not just as criminals, but as symbols of resistance. The film acknowledges that perception, but doesn't fully embrace it. It keeps a distance, allowing the audience to see both the appeal and the emptiness. What makes Dillinger endure is that it doesn't try to resolve that contradiction. It presents a man shaped by his time and leaves the judgment open. Oates, Johnson, and Stanton understand that restraint. So that's it for this one. Please subscribe and drop a comment. Do you want more great flicks like this one? If so, please smash that like button and let's show YouTube how much we love great movies. And as always, see you on the next one. Save us a balcony seat and extra butter on the popcorn, please.